achieve, things fall apart. And how that book was a realization of the cultural imperialism of the whites against the blacks, and the KOKU as a character was a rebellion against that cultural imperialism. Because all of us have been taught to think a certain way. And even when you are being slapped, the Bible says that you should turn the other, not to fight back, turn the other cheek to be slapped. I mean, so all that was meant to subdue us as a people. Even though you will see that in history, and we've spoken about it again on this platform, there have been instances where natives, the black African, has stood up against unfairness, injustice, and imperialism. And in our own country, Yaa Asantewaa is remembered. Yaa Asantewaa's exploits were not only for the Ashanti people, but were a demonstration of the fact that the black person, the black woman, a black woman could stand up against what was totally unacceptable in the continent or in the country that belonged to his ancestors or her ancestors. The confrontation that happened in the White House, and let me backtrack some more and say, the story of Yaa Asantewaa can be seen all over the country, I mean all over the continent. You go to Nigeria, they talk about Tafawa Balewa and his exploits. I mean, you go to South Africa itself, then you see clearly that South Africa has produced people who stood up against what was imperialism that manifested itself in the form of apartheid. Wherever you go, you will find that our people, I mean, in my backyard in Tabal, in Dabong, we had a chief who simply refused to accept that his kingdom could be divided between the English and the Germans, and went to war. He went to war to fight the Germans for dividing his kingdom into two, to be shared among the German. And he said he could not rule over a kingdom that was in two places, and he fought the Germans. Yes, he was defeated, he was captured, but he fought, he stood up, he said no. Now, but that's why I think that what John Mahama has done, our president has done, clearly falls in line with what the values our ancestors stood for. An attack on your brother is an attack on you, especially when the attack is unjustified. And you have every reason to stand behind your brother. If this is a physical fight, and when we're growing up, that's what our fathers told us. If you go out with your brother and your brother is attacked, you don't run home to complain that your brother has been attacked. You support your brother. And I just want to commend His Excellency the President for standing up at this critical time to express his view on what happened in the White House, and to condemn him in terms that has resonated with all people, and particularly we those who believe that the white man has done a lot of injustice to us and is continuing to do that through systems that it has put in place to somehow review our conduct. I don't know who gave them the power and authority to review our conduct, but every now and then you see that there are systems that have been put in place purposely to review our conduct and to bring our conduct in line with what they perceive as civilized conduct or Western conduct. And that is clearly ideological. That is the new liberal systems that they have put in place to check us to ensure that we are put in line and that we don't do things that will surprise them or even offend them. Now, the meeting in the White House has been condemned roundly and soundly by many countries, including Western Western countries. And many people are beginning to look at what happened in the White House as a blueprint on how to deal with Donald Trump. And many people have written, and I've read a lot of articles that look, if you study what the disposition of Ramaphosa, his responses, and the contempt with which he treated the film that was being shown to him and the newspaper articles, clearly it appears to many watchers of the incident that Ramaphosa came out of the meeting stronger than Donald Trump. And if you are thinking of engaging Donald Trump and you have apprehensions that he might subject you to that unfortunate incident again, ambush you with things in your country, your script will be to look at what Ramaphosa did in the White House. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. London.
Well, thank you.
Yes, and again, good morning to my senior brother, Ahmed Kwesi Pratt, and my good brother, Honorable Babaji. And also to viewers. And I, on my part, was very, very happy with the outcome of Cyril Ramaphosa's engagement with Donald Trump in the White House. I had looked forward with a lot of anticipation. One, I was confident that and had anticipated that Cyril Ramaphosa was going to be railroaded, ambushed, because one of the people who spiritually is very much against the ANC and the ANC government in South Africa is Donald Trump's close ally, what's his name?
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. And we have all seen through, the theme that runs through Donald Trump's, Elon Musk's engagement with Donald Trump, his loathing for the way South Africa is being run, and how he wishes to overturn it. We began to see snippets of it when, amnesty was granted to white South Africans who are being persecuted in South Africa by the Trump administration. An administration that is chasing out other people from other countries who have genuinely and sincerely fled from persecution and sought refuge and been received in the United States over decades and generations. We saw those people rather being chased out, and yet here he was opening an amnesty to, quote and unquote, white South Africans who were being discriminated against in South Africa. So all that for me set the tone for how Cyril Ramaphosa was going to be received. So I was very anxious. And that day, I watched it live. And I must say, I was very, very happy and encouraged with the way Cyril Ramaphosa handled it. He came in there with his own team, diverse team, and responded effectively to the accusations and the challenges posed to him by Donald Trump. He was not intimidated by the surroundings, because the way we pick the information, we realize that Donald Trump sets up his White House. He brings you actually into his office. And you are in the middle of all these people with an attempt to intimidate you, and he demonstrates the power. But Cyril Ramaphosa was totally in control, totally, and handled it so well. And other members of his delegation, the responses they gave also buttressed his point. So at the end of the day, I think Cyril Ramaphosa had done extremely well, and the recommendation has come across board. And for His Excellency John Mahama to also add his voice in not just commending him, but also condemning what was done to him, and also owning it, that this condemnation is not just to Cyril Ramaphosa, but to all of us. I think it's also very commendable, and something that we should all take inspiration from. There has been, like my brother said, there's a certain awakening going on. Yes, in our history, we have had elements of it. Various leaders have come up. We've heard various lone voices at various times in our history stand up very strongly. But we have also seen how some of those voices were trampled, silenced. We've seen all that. And so there hasn't been that consistency. But in the recent past, we've seen an awakening, and then, an engagement that is encouraging that type of conversation and awakening in the African. I hope that it would, we would be able to strengthen it more. Locally, we've had the Socialist Forum and other groupings who have helped to amplify that awakening among our people. And I just hope that there'll be a further consolidation of that, so that the lessons learned from that engagement will go deep into our political fabric, into even our educational system, so that we build a firmer foundation, so that in the future we see the incidents of Western leaders attempting to deal with our heads of state and presidents in that way would even be minimized. They don't do it to their own colleagues, but they think they have a right and opportunity, they have a responsibility to treat African leaders as such. So I think I want to commend President Mahama for adding his voice and coming up with this commendation of Cyril Ramaphosa and condemnation of what he was put through by Donald Trump, and also actually owning it, that yes, it's not just an attack on the president of South Africa and his delegation, but an attack on all of us, and we own it, and we also stand up to it and condemn it.
Thank you. Comrade Pratt.
Well, first of all, I must say that President John Dramani Mahama makes me very, very proud. I'm so proud of President John Dramani Mahama. With a fellow African head of state who is unjustifiably being vilified, and attacked by President Donald Trump. And I think that this is very commendable action by President John Dramani Mahama. I mean, I cannot understand how, the situation has flipped. This is the United States of America, who supported the apartheid regime in South Africa to the hilt. Indeed, even after Nelson Mandela had been released from prison and elected as president of a new South Africa, he continued to be on the terrorist list of the United States of America. This country, its president, has the effrontery to actually accuse South Africa of racism. I mean, unbelievable. But it is happening before our very eyes. And what President Mahama has done is simply to send a clear message that when it comes to the dignity of Africa, African leaders must stand together. They haven't always stood together. And we have Alassane Ouattara in La Côte d'Ivoire, who is supporting the French to the hilt in perpetuating neocolonialism in the Sahel and in other parts of Africa. John Mahama is showing that it's a different precedent, and he would not take, this. There are so many people, including my two friends on the panel, who are impressed with Cyril Ramaphosa and commending him for being calm and so on. He had no business going to the White House. He had no business going there. And I've repeatedly said that African leaders must come to the realization that their most important duty is to protect our interests and not to be seeking approval from the White House and 10 Downing Street and other such places. Why? We have to approve them, not Donald Trump.
Yeah.
You understand? Not that new German chancellor and so on. Those are not the people whose approval should be important for African leaders. African leaders should seek approval from their own people.
Right.
And that's why I'm so disappointed in Sir Ramaphosa. I mean, what was he doing there anyway? And look at the composition of his delegation. It makes me sick. He deliberately went to the White House with white golfers to appease Donald Trump. What does that mean? He went with white golfers to show Donald Trump that he doesn't hate whites. What kind of mentality is that? I can't understand it. You understand? But to be honest with you, very, very honest with you, I'm impressed by President John Dramani Mahama. And this is how African leaders ought to behave. Look, at this stage of our development, we are still not in control of our natural resources. Our natural resources are not being exploited for the benefit of our people. You understand? The Western countries, the capitalist states, are doing everything possible to stifle our independence and so on. Look at the threats on this young man who has taken power in Burkina Faso and so on. Look at how Patrice Lumumba was murdered. And only last week, the Belgian intelligence officer who led that operation looked the world in the face and told us that he cut Patrice Lumumba's body into 34 pieces. He told us he cut Patrice Lumumba's body into 34 pieces, dissolved these pieces in acid, and kept his front teeth as souvenir. He is telling us. He has a trophy. He has the teeth of a democratically elected president of Africa. A souvenir, and he's telling us with glee and so on. And nobody is arresting him. He's not being put on trial for murder. You understand? He's still walking the streets of Belgium as a free person and so on. Can't believe this. Donald Trump doesn't see that. Donald Trump doesn't read that. He doesn't hear that. What he hears are useless, concocted stories without any foundation about white settlers in South Africa being deprived of land. Whose land is that? And I made the point last week about my own experiences in South Africa, in a place called Bella Bella, And these whites have huge tracts of land. And until recently, if you saw anybody in Bella Bella who was black, he was a labourer, he was a domestic servant, and so on. They were not the owners of the land. As we speak, more than 60% of South African land is in the hands of whites, when they constitute a small minority of the population. Donald Trump cannot see that. Look, and I think it was Philip who made this brilliant point about hundreds, thousands of people who have worked in the United States of America for years, who have contributed to the development of the U.S. economy, whose sweat and toil has built the United States of America. They're being driven out of the United States of America. And the gates are being opened wide for white South Africans. What is that? What does that mean? So I am very, let me repeat, I'm very, very proud, you know, of President John Mahama. And I think people should also take note of the people who surround Donald Trump in the White House. Elon Musk, for example, has been mentioned. There are others who can be traced, who have roots in the apartheid system in South Africa, who have deep roots in the apartheid system in South Africa. You understand? And who today want to turn the United States of America into the gulag of today. I mean, and this is clearly unacceptable. Look, there are great people in the United States of America. There are people who share our aspirations. There are great leaders in the United States of America. You understand? Who understand the world situation much better. One wonders how in the final analysis, Donald Trump is the one they chose as president. But that is their headache, you know.
Thank you very much. Still to come, we shall be looking at the case of the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the New Patriotic Party, Bernard Ntwi-Buesiako, popularly known as Chairman Wontumi. But yesterday, the former Vice President, Dr. Mahmud Bawumia, he released a statement condemning, I don't know exactly what, but let me briefly read it. He says, I'm deeply concerned about the arrest and continued detention of the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the New Patriotic Party, Mr. Bernard Ntwi-Buesiako, particularly as the charges remain vague and his whereabouts remain unknown. This is the first paragraph. He goes on to say that in a democratic environment as ours, no individual is above the law. Equally, no Ghanaian, regardless of political affiliation or status, should ever be denied their constitutional rights. Justice and due process are not optional. They are the foundation of our democracy. I have been in constant touch with Mr. Wuntumi's legal team since this morning to ensure that his rights are protected and that due process is followed. I commend them for their professionalism and vigilance. So the same person who did not know the whereabouts has been in constant touch with his lawyers. Maybe the lawyers also do not know his whereabouts. I also urge the Economic and Organized Crime Office and all relevant state institutions to act strictly within the bounds of the law and to respect the rights of Mr. Wontumi as guaranteed by our Constitution. Any deviation from these principles risks undermining public trust in our justice system and weakening the democratic values we have worked hard to build. Ghana must always remain a nation governed by law, not by arbitrary power. Our republic is strongest when our institutions are both firm and fair. This is a statement from former Vice President Dr. Mahmud Bawumia. Straight away, I'll go to Mr. Philip London. What exactly has the Economic and Organized Crime Office done wrong in their interrogation of Chairman Wontumi that the former Vice President is unhappy with?
Well, first of all, I don't know when the former Vice President made this statement. I don't know when he made the statement.
It was yesterday.
And
official.
I don't know about you, but I was not there.
Okay.
You know, I'm not sure. I want to believe that at the time he made this statement, well, yes, he says that he didn't know where Chairman Wontumi was. He hadn't heard the charges. I think it should have been fair as a journalist to have asked the former Vice President that between when he made that statement and now, whether that statement still stands. You know? Because as we speak, yes, at the time he was... first of all, how does this whole thing start? Security operatives went to his residence, I think last week, was it Friday or so, in an attempt to invite him. He panicked and was wailing. Thanks to mobile technology, modern technology, I'm sure he had his phone connected to a radio station and he was appealing through the radio station to all MPP people to come to his aid because he was being either arrested or kidnapped or whatever he thought was going on. After all that hula baloo, his lawyer said, oh, the security agency said, we already have come to invite this man. He should come and see us on Monday. It's okay. One day he went. So that's what I'm saying. I don't know at what point this statement was made, but subsequently, Mr. Wun to me, Mr. Nchugbu Esiakun, sorry. Mr. Nchugbu Esiakun was interviewed by the, I think, National BNI, Bureau for National Intelligence, right? National Intelligence Bureau, sorry. He was interviewed, some charges were made against him. He was granted bail. In the course of the interview, we understand he had to be rushed to the hospital. I've seen one newspaper headline here that says he feigned ailment or he feigned sickness or something. One to me fakes illness. I didn't say it. It's a newspaper that have said that. That he feigned. At the end of the day, he was in hospital, and then he was granted bail and released. The following day, the Economic and Organized Crime Office also invited him on other charges, and he has been, well, as of the last I heard of that story, I don't know whether he had been able to meet all the bail conditions. Oh, he has been granted bail. So at the end of the day, what has been wrong? What was wrong? What action was taken that was illegal, was out of order, that was... The charges against him have been leveled, made clear to him, his legal team, and the public in the two instances. In the first one, he granted a press conference virtually denying and condemning everything. Fine. In the second instance, he has gone to a financial institution, borrowed monies, not made any payment, heavy amounts of money in foreign exchange, and he hasn't paid. These payments have well overdue, and the Economic and Organized Crime Office has invited him to answer. What is out of order in this matter? Nothing. That's why I'm saying that. I don't know what, when the former vice president said that, and what his intentions were. But so far as I'm concerned, the security agencies haven't done anything wrong. They've invited him, laid the charges, he had access to his counsel, they advised him, he answered appropriately, there was no duress, there was nothing done outside the law, and the matter is progressing, as we would expect to happen to any citizen of Ghana if any charges are leveled against them. What for me is significant in this matter is that after Mr. Wun to me and Mr. Nchugbu Esiakun was making those frantic cries and appeals to his party members to come to his aid, if you monitor the conversations, especially in Ashanti, where he was chairman of the party, or he is still the chairman of the party, public sentiment has gone very strongly against him. It's like, so you've done all these things, and what do you want us to come and do? Why you collected the money? You collected the money. So what do you expect the party people to go and do? To come and do what? So the kind of response he was expecting from the party, quote-unquote supporters, it's not happening. At the time when he went to BNI and thought thousands of party people would have come to his aid, there's only a few tens of friends of his who came there trying to make some. So all this thing should be a lesson to him and others. Nothing wrong has been done. If you are sure you don't have a problem, the charges leveled against you are not correct, go out there and defend yourself. It's as simple as that. So far as I'm concerned, yes, this is part of the ongoing lesson. Today is the MPP man who is there, but it should be a lesson for all politicians. When political office comes, you learn. There are people who have held political office. They walk about free, they are happy, they live simple lives. Nobody has a problem with them. It should be a lesson and inspiration to everybody. You know? But those who were behaving in a very brazen manner, like he was doing, gained a certain notoriety. I mean, when you do that, you are only asking for trouble for yourself. And when that day of reckoning comes, the kind of support that would be, one would be expecting or assuming to emerge on their behalf, it will not happen. So, for me, this is the lesson of the situation, not just to him and people of his party, but to all politicians, including myself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll do a few messages. Maiga Amuncho says, good morning, bless. Watching live from Bamako, Mali. Greetings to your panelists. Alhaji, Uncle Pratt, and Mr. Philip Blandon. I've been watching and listening to the Man Master since the year 2000. Bless, please make sure you don't eat into our time by starting the show very late. I want to apologize for that once again. Kingston, the snap, Asimiga says, good morning, I'm enjoying today's show. Thank you. Ibrahim Abdul Karim says, Trump is a confused politician. There's no difference between Trump and Baumia. Okay, all right. Okay. This one here also says that, good morning, Pan-African TV. I am enjoying the show inside Tamale. All right, thank you. Bless, I was sad to see the suspended CJ Tokono enter the Supreme Court through where the ordinary person would pass to enter. Hey, Bless, no condition is permanent to Stephen from Kwabena sent this one. Thank you, Stephen. Good morning, Bless. Did Trump show videos or pictures to his Zionist colleague Netanyahu for the real genocide happening in Gaza when they met? Very soon, our hospitals will become a crime scene because all the MPPs and the alleged investigations. Okay, the rest of your message is not so clear, but I think you want to say that all people being investigated by this government are getting ill and being rushed to the hospital. Bibi from Musuku sent this one. Thank you, Bibi. This one here also says that a very warm good morning to our viewers. It appears to me that political affiliation strongly influences the view of most Ghanaians. As a result, there is a significant amount of political polarization. I respectfully suggest that politicians and political actors speech must not be filled with so much politically charged comments, thereby making it hard to separate facts from exaggeration. Nana Osewusu, Abiase Bunu East Region, sent this one. Thank you, Nana Osewusu, for your message. I'll read this final one. Kwablavi of Pokwa says that Chairman Wuntimi has been crying and pretending to be sick. He should know that crying and sickness won't save him. Whether he's crying or not, he'll be jailed because he has destroyed so many things. Where is the gold he has been bragging about? Why has he stopped insulting President John Mahama? Chairman Wuntimi must be jailed. All right, thank you. Let me now come to Honorable Inusa Fuseni on this topic as well. Honorable.
You see, I don't suffer people who behave with impunity, who act regardless of what might be in store for them one day, who think that they cannot ever be held accountable lightly. I don't suffer them lightly. And I have the least sympathy for him. From day one, you could see that Wuntimi was setting up himself for an encounter of this nature after his party left office, and particularly when the new government came into office. Because how do you explain how one man can do what Wuntimi has done? and even get presidential stamp of approval for the destruction of our forests and water bodies. And you think that another president will not hold you, or a new government will not hold you accountable? How do you explain how one man will come to a TV station like Pan-African TV and display gold bars? What kind of life is that? What is that? And then the Ghana Revenue Authority do not reach out for him. He is going to go to many other places. I mean, this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning, I'm telling you, this is just the beginning. Because what he has been doing has caught up with him. How do you go to Exim Bank to take money, huge money, to go into farming, when there are already farmers who... The Exim Bank money has not been used to support farmers. Because you are chairman, you go and take that money. And Ghana, within that period, was importing grains from Burkina Faso. How? You go and sit on the management of KOKU board, and they give you a contract, inflate the cost per kilowatt, per kilometer for you. And then what we are hearing is that you will never deliver the contract. In fact, yesterday somebody sent me a video of the secretary, the Ashanti regional secretary or something, or I mean, some secretaries in the Ashanti region who had held a press conference to accuse Wontumi of all the non-performance of road contracts in the Ashanti region, and has said that the Ashanti region will not vote for MPP precisely because of the conduct of Wontumi. Somebody sent it to me. I mean, this is just the beginning. And the appeal could be, I mean, you have a lot of work to do. It's just the beginning. The Financial Intelligence Center will go after him. Because many things have been done by him. And it is not that because he's a Ashanti regional chairman. What he actually did was to use his position as chairman of the ruling party, MPP in the Ashanti region, as insurance to do all these nefarious activities. Because while the party was in power, he was insured. Wontumi said that when John Mahama was in power and now was Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, we burnt his 500 excavators. You've not heard him?
I've heard that.
500 excavators. 500 excavators, Wontumi. And 300 pickups. You heard that? And what you don't know is that when the MPP came into office, they paid Wontumi
for that alleged...
Yeah, they paid Wontumi.
And
you think that Wontumi will not answer? You think that he will answer? They paid him. Paid him. Compensation. In fact, even that time, Wontumi, I mean, yesterday, I mean, there's a gentleman, a very respectable miner, 2 days ago when I was listening to Wontumi's story, and I called him and I said, oh, he said, I don't want to get into distance. He said, how can Wontumi have equipment of that? Wontumi used to come to me and rent equipment. Respected miner. I didn't know, he wasn't called Wontumi, he was called Enchubos Yaku. He used to come to me to rent equipment. But MPP paid him. Paid him with which people's money? Ghana money. Who has fiduciary responsibility to protect Ghana's money? President John Mahama and his government. And if a crime was committed in 2017, time doesn't run against the commission of a crime. all those who were involved in paying going to be 500 bent excavators will have to go and bring the charred remains of those 500 excavators, or take us to go and see it. And the fact, Lutwe himself said it, 500 and 300 pickups will have to take us to go and see the charred remains of the pickups, for which he was paid by the Nana Akufo-Addo government. So this is just the beginning. I can tell you as a matter of fact that this is just the beginning. Wise MPP guys are saying that, yes, it's a day of accountability. The fact that they have accused you of a crime doesn't make you a criminal. Because you are no. Those intelligent guys in the MPP, because they also know, and they had reasons to believe that Wontumi was engaged in some criminal activities. But they could not say anything. Because you see, a politician like him hedges his bets. And that was why he ran to hide behind Dr. Mahmud Baumia. Yeah. He had every reason to believe that he will win and continue to protect him. But you have your ways, and God has his ways. And your ways cannot be I mean, your ways are not the ways of God. You see? So, yes. And it is not new. It is not new. Chikata was arrested in church. In the church. People were picked. You know, Solomon, Victor Solomon, have you heard his name? You know where he was picked? No. On the tarmac. He was abroad. When he landed, they said he had stolen money. He didn't remain abroad. He came back to Ghana, and on the tarmac he was picked. Have you heard of Danda Budakwi?
Yeah.
You know he was arrested. You know how he was arrested? You know how he was arrested? Have you heard of Ibrahim Adam? You know this man is not suffering from small illness, Sepayanki. So they should stop that nonsense. They stop that nonsense. When we were Cal Power, JJ, our Attorney General, Dominic Ayini, they went to their houses at dawn with full complement of military, ransacked their homes and took their phones and other electronic equipment for 10 good months. Took it to London to see whether they were engaged in communication between Cal Power and them which could incriminate them. Well, so if we were I hope he's listening. The true one they sent him through on Cal Power, you just have no idea. Look, I'm just saying that Ghanaians voted, including MPP guys, voted for John Mahama and the NDC in the last elections because they were just offended by the level of rot in the system. And they voted for post-regime accountability. And that post-regime accountability will be executed to the letter. They can mass up the whole of MPP at Iyoko. They will investigate. And if he's found, if there is a prima facie evidence that he was engaged in some criminal activity, he will put before the court. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Comrade Pratt.
The most interesting comment on this case that I've heard has come from Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, the running mate of the presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party in the last elections. When he was asked to comment on this Wontumi matter, he simply said that when Wontumi was taking huge contracts from governments, he should have known that the day of accountability would come. And that when that day arrives, what you do is to defend yourself. You understand? And that's very clear. There's another constituency secretary of the NPP in the Ashanti region that I heard, and he made a very interesting statement. What did he say? He said, all of this could be about Galamsey, and that they in the NPP promised that they will fight against Galamsey, and that if this is about Galamsey, then they in the NPP should have arrested him to meet themselves and handed him over to the authorities. This is an NPP person. I've also seen the video that Alhaji Yunus Hussaini talks about of NPP card-bearing members addressing a press conference and saying that, look, Ashanti roads are in a deplorable condition, and that it is because their own leaders took contracts to fix this road and didn't do it. You understand? And they were livid with anger. And this NPP stalwarts in Ashanti actually mentioned my good friend Wuntumi as one of the people involved in this. So I think we should be careful not to brush anybody, not to touch everybody and anybody in the NPP with the same brush. There are some people in the NPP who believe in the principles of accountability, who are ready to work with state institutions in order to achieve those objectives. And I think we should be clear about that. I saw the people who massed up at Yoko in the night, I think 2 nights ago, who actually tried to burn Yoko, set fire and so on. And from the video that I saw, there couldn't have been more than 50 people. That is not the New Patriotic Party. That's a small group of people, you understand? But throughout all of this, I've been shocked by some of the statements which have been made by some leading members of the party. One of those leading members is this guy who is head of communications, Ahiagba. Richard Ahiagba. I mean, I saw him on TV3, and he was livid with anger. And he said, we don't care whether the government is right or wrong. I said, my goodness. The head of communications of the NPP doesn't care whether the government is right or wrong. He reminded the Mahama administration of the fact that they still have numbers that they can deploy. Deploy to do what? Deploy to do what? And when leaders say that we don't care whether what the government is doing is right or wrong, it raises many problems. It's the same person who, when it came to the impeachment process of the Chief Justice, actually said again that what they're doing, their demonstrations and so on, is not about the law. It's not about the Constitution. It's not about the law. It's not about the Constitution. And that the real motive for their demonstration is that somehow, strangely, they suspect that President John Mahama may call for an amendment of the Constitution and run for a 3rd term. Can you believe this? That is not about the law. It's not about the Constitution. It's not even about the impeachment process itself. That the real motive is that somehow, strangely, they have come to a conclusion that President Mahama would move for the amendment of the Constitution and run for a 3rd term. Where is this coming from? I mean, unbelievable. What all of us have to realize, members of the NDC, members of the NPP, all of us, what we have to realize is that those who sow the wind reap in the final analysis the whirlwind. You understand? all these things about mobilizing people to go and burn Ryoko and so on, it will have consequences for all of us, including very innocent people who have nothing to do with MPP and nothing to do with MPs. And they should be careful. The line they are pushing can have very disastrous consequences for them, for us, for everybody. And I think that they should be very careful. I insist that even criminals have rights. I insist that those who commit murder have rights. On this panel, we are happy to have Alhaji Yusuf Hussaini, who is a well-respected lawyer and so on. I'm a lay person, and I suspect my brother to... I suspect that my brother too is just like me. You understand? But I'm told that if you are charged with murder, the law does not even allow you to plead guilty. You, yourself, you can't plead guilty to a charge of murder. Why? Look at the level of protection that the law offers persons who are charged with murder. So, everybody, we must apply the law for everybody. Nobody's right should be abused. People should have the right to counsel. People should have the right to refuse to make statements on arrest and so on. Once all these fundamental rights are respected, let the law deal with us equally. And there's no problem. Every time people recount what happened in the past, and many things happened in the past. Look, one of those things which happened in the past was simply the fact that Mr. Chachu Chikata was arrested in church before his God. You know, and I continuously make the point that unfortunately his God couldn't prevent the arrest. You understand? But he was arrested in church. You know, Kojo Chumbuafu, my good friend Kojo Chumbuafu, sick man. If you count the number of times he had to appear before investigative bodies, he was sick. He is still sick. It's unbelievable, but it happened. It happened. You know, and then the other day, I heard somebody saying that those who are being arrested, they are facing trauma. Their children are facing trauma, and so on and so on. Me, I was not arrested for committing a crime. I was not arrested for committing a crime. The system, the establishment decided that the way to deal with me was not to arrest me, but to tarnish my reputation. So they cooked up a story, hopeless story, which fell apart only after 3 years of persistent harassment. That I had gone and taken $125,000 from former President John Rawlings to do his propaganda. And this story went on and on for 3 years. Today, I have had high blood pressure. I never had high blood pressure. As a result of this matter, I developed high blood pressure. You're talking about the trauma facing their children. My children were in secondary school when they were summoned before their class and told that their father was a rascal and a thief. They didn't suffer any trauma. We should stop this. This country has to move on. There are serious problems that have to be solved. The debt burden is huge. People can still not afford 1 square meal a day, not 3, 1 square meal a day. I told the story of a friend of mine who is a musician, just a guitarist and so on, whose child was knocked down by a tractor vehicle. Took the child to one of these hospitals, and he was required to pay 120,000 cedis deposit. Where is he going to find that money? This is the problem people are grappling with. So let's stop the unnecessary noise. Let's stop the grandstanding and let the law work in our country, for at least for a moment.
Thank you.
But when you talk, they say, oh, but if it was wrong in the past, it's wrong now.
No, yeah.
That's their response.
Yeah. I've heard miracles about just say that.
Yes, but didn't you know that was wrong?
Yeah.
But Master, this is what I say. When something happens today and you're talking, I say, but don't you remember that it happened 10 years ago? Why are you not condemning that? When it happened 10 years ago, we condemned it.
Yes. Yeah.
You understand? It's been condemned already.
So they defended it at the time.
Why do we have to keep condemning it forever when new things are happening today? It doesn't make any sense.
Yes.
And you make the point that you're right. Those who defended those atrocious acts are the same people who today are telling us to equalize.
And some of us suffer for not defending.
Look at Kwame Pepra.
He suffered for laughing with me on a radio program. How can you be smiling with this man? They expected him to slap my face. And because he didn't slap my face, they were very angry with him for laughing with me.
I said, Kwame Pepra, Adam Ibrahim, Sepayanki, when they were convicted for causing financial loss. You know what the NPP did? They had bussed people to the court. I was there, court premises. And when they were leaving the court,
hooted at them.
They hooted at them. What indignation is greater than this? Is more than this? So they should stop what they are doing. I mean, we have seen Westerns.
Right. Abubakar Yusuf says, let him pay his 50 million bail first. Edward Bigbaza says, Chairman Untimi has solid money. He should suffer for this. Okay.
He was going to buy Chelsea.
Yeah, he said, I remember him saying that he has enough money to buy Chelsea Football Club. Musa Abatra says, no one is denying that the suspended Chief Justice had constitutional right to defend himself, but it's becoming evident that this might be a deliberate strategy to delay the process because the legal gymnastics of filing injunction is just too much. At the end of the day, if the case lacks merit, no amount of maneuvering will change the outcome. It still amounts to nothing. This one here says that, good morning, blessed. Chairman Untimi has this cunning modus operandi to be sick anytime he's subjected to thorough interrogation and investigation from the state security agencies. He's only pretending to be indisposed so that he can get ample time to churn out falsehood and fabrication in order to actually avoid public opprobrium and embarrassment. Written by Ernest Evalaf Kwashi from Dansuman. Thank you, Ernest, for your message. Good morning, Pan-African TV. Nkonu from La Paz. We are begging Gapoa they should come down with their daily pass fee, which is too much. Thank you and God bless you, all right? Dennis Y. Akwete. The unique version of Article 146(8), exclusive only to the suspended CJ, might have read, at the request of the affected party, all proceedings under this article shall be held in camera, and the justice of or chairman against whom the petition is made is entitled to be heard in his defense by himself or by a lawyer or other aspect of his choice. So sad. Shalom. Dennis Wakwete sent this one. Thank you, Dennis, for a message. Good morning, bless, and your guest, especially Honorable Yunus Afuseni. I concur that Chairman Untimi should be subject to the law, just like any other citizen. It is noteworthy that NPP supporters were rallying in his favor at the EOCO office, despite allegations of corruption and environmental degradation linked to his company, particularly regarding the unfinished rehabilitation and upgrading or reconstruction of KOKU routes projects in Dadiesoa, Kontombra, Awaso, Asawenso, Bibieni in Western North region. He should be held accountable for these actions. If found guilty, he ought to face the full consequence of the law. Under the leadership of John Mahama, accountability would be paramount and everyone would be treated equally regardless of their position. Thank you so much. Aibe from Tamale sent this one. Thank you. Good morning, bless. I'm watching you from Obuasi. I've seen that Untimi and the NPP are just wasting their time because they thought they were not going to leave office, but rather, unfortunately, the table has turned. So I think the law must take its course and deal with him accordingly. Thank you. Good morning, bless. I thank God for giving another long life to see all that is happening. Baba Alaji from Pru West sent this one. Thank you. Good morning, comrades. I wonder why Nana Akufo-Addo is not petitioned to face the laws of our land. Kwame Bruni from Accra sent this one. Okay. Good morning, blessed. Baumia cannot rule us because of what he said. He will damage Ghana for whom to me to do whatever he likes. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. You didn't tell me your name and where you sent your message from. Good morning to you all. God bless you for the hard work you are doing. More grace to do more. No one is above the law. This one came from Reverend Abel Awintuma from the Upper East region, Zebila specifically. God bless Ghana. God bless Pan-African TV. All right, God bless you too. Bless, I have said it long ago. I've said it long ago that I can't mention this word on TV, but you're saying that the actions of Chairman Wontumi in Anaido's government, he will dance to the music. JDM has come and the all-powerful Wontumi has started dancing. Stephen Peng from WA sent this one. Thank you, Stephen Peng. I'll do this last one. In every democratic dispensation, every citizen has the right to fair hearing, no matter what case it involves, whether it's civil or criminal charges leveled against the victim. And it's very unfortunate the NDC Mahama government have turned their constitution upside down just to remove the Chief Justice from office. And no matter what the intimidation, Chairman Wontumi will surely come out stronger and victorious, because no one can dim the lights of the great elephant. Adam Abdulrahman Bakun from Old Barrier. Thank you, Adam, for your message. Kumsin Job says, good morning, good job. My name is Kumsin. All right, Kumsin, thank you very much. We have just some 10 minutes more. If we can briefly look at the story relating to the CD. It's surge. The president has made some comments regarding that briefly, just some 3 minutes. And he has said he has hailed the CD's recovery, and as a result of that, our debt has been slashed by some 150 billion. CDs. That's encouraging, isn't it, Honorable?
Very, very encouraging. I mean, and everybody, there's now unanimity across the board that something fundamentally different is being done to our management of the currency by the Bank of Ghana, and also to our fiscal policies by the Minister for Finance. The President also has provided that leadership that is required for the purpose of motivating his appointees to do more to save the CD. President, I was there when the President was making this comment yesterday when he met captains of industry to discuss with them the implementation and their concerns on the implementation of the 24-hour economy. And clearly, everybody in the meeting appreciated the fact that a stable currency helps in planning. And so if we are able to keep our eyes on the ball, not that they are just looking for the increase in value of the currency, but even if the currency stabilizes at a point, they want that stability to remain there, and the margin of volatility to be within a certain band that could help in planning. And so I think that there is general calmness, general happiness, and people are beginning to understand that what we were told could not happen can happen. I mean, and if you address your mind to it. The President also said, yes, even though we are happy with the cedi falling, but we don't want the dollar falling and the cedi rising in value. We don't want our cedi to fall to the point where we will exchange one cedi for $1. And he was speaking to captains of industry, and that is very important for them, because when those in the export trade, when it comes to that level, exports now become uncompetitive, so they can export our exports will be very expensive. And so I think that the Bank of Ghana has said that it's monitoring the situation, it's looking at what is happening, and no one is engineering that, except that the policies that they are introducing is manifesting in the increase in value of the city. Let's continue to watch. But we're all happy. Those who are not happy are those who hoarded the dollars, who changed the dollars and put in their rooms, thinking that the city will always weaken and that the dollar was a very veritable store of value. They are doing suffering. I mean, but the Ghanaian worker is happy. 20% increase in value means 20% retention of money in his pocket. It's good. It's good.
Right. Thank you. Mr. Langdon.
Yes. It is true. What is happening is good. Give a lot of hope and confidence to Ghanaians. Like my brother said, there's worry in some parts that the city shouldn't come down to 1-to-1. But there was a time in this country when the city was almost 1-to-1.
Yeah.
And I remember in those days, people were not interested in the dollar. The nature of my work, property issues, yes, some transactions go in dollars. People don't want dollars. Everybody wants cedis. No, for what? No, cedis. Certain high-end transactions are normally, dollar index. People didn't want the dollar reference to at all. Purely cedis. The city had become so stable. There was so much confidence in the city, and Ghanaians were very happy. So we've had that time before. A few decades earlier, there was a time when the dollar was two cedis to a dollar. It remained standard for a very, very long time. Ghana was doing well. So yes, when those indices come, they can be good for us. But let's take the last one, where it was 1-to-1. The government at the time, MPP government, became super confident in itself, very ambitious, and then started doing things. Then something happened. The world price of oil shot from under $60 to $140. Totally threw the economy out of proportion. And then when the cedi deteriorated from 1 cedi to 104, the MPP started to harass the NDC. Hey, terrible. Bad governance. MPP took over and it came down to 60. So we've seen all that. All this tells you that, yes, there can be good times and a good management. What is important is sustaining it. Sustaining it. Sustaining it doesn't necessarily mean recklessness on the part of the government or bad governance, but the government making sure that it is prudent in its decisions. I've just seen that the government has said, I think yesterday or the day before, that now all borrowings, the government has indicated, we're now going to go back into the capital market and start borrowing money. But now all borrowing will be for commercially viable ventures. Fantastic. But if you go for a loan for a commercially viable venture and you don't manage that loan well, it's just as good as going for a loan that doesn't go for. So these are the things that, yes, things are well, things are good, and no matter what anybody says, it is a credit to this government.
Right.
No matter what anybody says, it is a credit, because any other party that would have been in power and had these indices would claim the credit for it. So it is justly deserved to President John Mahama and his government for what is going on.
Thank you very much. Comrade Pratt, finally.
Well, I think, look, we have to interrogate what is happening properly. And interrogating what is happening properly, one of the things that we ought to know is that there has been no fundamental change in the structure of the economy. So what is happening is not structural. It's not because we've changed the economic regime or the paradigm. And that is why we have to be careful in our analysis. Okay. I've already pointed to the Bank of Ghana's assessment that by close of year, the cedi will be exchanging for 11 to a dollar. Now, this is an indication that it will rise again. Okay? I've also pointed to the analysis of FITS, which actually claims that by close of year, the cedi will be exchanging at 14. Another indication that it will rise again. Okay. So, for me, what we need to do is to understand the trend. What is advantageous in this exchange rate volatility and so on is stability. It's not so much the rate of depreciation or the rate of appreciation, but stability, predictability.
Yeah.
That is the most important thing. The other thing that we need to look at is also, look, the fact that what is happening could have a devastating impact on exporters. Its impact on importers is different from its impact on exporters.
Yeah.
And so this is the time for our leaders of industry, our leaders of commerce, our leaders of trade and so on, to put on their thinking caps. Try to understand this situation and try to design policies which will prevent things from going haywire again. That's my very, very humble advice. If they take it, okay. If they don't take it, okay. If we want to examine things on the basis of propaganda and so on, it's up to us. Look, what is happening, everybody sees it. There's no Ghanaian who doesn't know that the cedi is appreciating in value. We know that. It has had immediate consequences like reduction in the cost of petroleum, reduction in lorry fares and so on. Everybody sees it. Huh? And when everybody sees what is happening, why talk about it? It is lazy communicators who talk about the obvious. Mature, well-informed communicators deal with difficult, complex situations, not what everybody is seeing. I finish.
Thank you very much. I have just a minute more to wrap up. I'll take that 1 minute to read some of the messages that our viewers have shared with me. And today we've had lots, we've had scores of viewers watching, especially from YouTube and on Facebook. We've had messages from all across the world. Thank you so much for your time. But this one here says, good morning, bless. Samoa is my name from Osu. Please tell my president my motive for voting for him is mainly because of oral, Operation Recover or Loot. And if you let these people go free, my God will never forgive him for taking Ghanaians for granted. Have a nice day. Thank you very much, Samoa, for your message. Good morning to the people of Osu as well. This one here says, today the Aboa are wailing in support of the of an environmental terrorist. So some people want to meet more than the survival of Ghana. The past Land and Natural Resources Minister, Honorable Samuel Abu-Janapo, told the entire world of the notorious, unpatriotic and un-Ghanaian environmental terrorism via his Akonta mining perpetrated, and today same people are up in arms against his arrest. And Jesus wept. My hearty regards to the Venerable Honorable Yunus Husseini and also Mr. M.K. Erickson, Tachiman, Bunu East Regional Communications Team member. All right, thank you for your message. I'll do this last one because my time is up. Mr. Host, if the suspended Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonum is alleging that she's experiencing mental torture and degrading treatment during the hearing of the case involving her and the petitioners, then it means that our legal jurisprudence inherently lacks professionalism, ethical standard, and integrity in the application of the laws and adjudication of prima facie cases. Justice needs no speeches, only action. Integrity is proved, not proclaimed. Ernest Kwashi sent this one. My time is up. I want to thank my panelists, my Thursday guest, Comrade Kwesi Pratt, Mr. Philip Landon, Honorable Yunusa Hussaini, for a wonderful time. It's been a very insightful, entertaining conversation here on Good Morning Africa. And to you, our cherished viewers, thank you so much for your time. My name is KOKU ALORMASOR. This has been the Newspaper Review. I'll see you tomorrow. To have a pleasant day. Bye-bye.